What we're going to work on today is the pumpkin art piece. And so as you can see, there's a pumpkin, there's the little stem and the leaf, and then a cat, and then we have a background. And so yours is going to look different than mine, but I will guide you through the process of making your own art piece, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to start with the oval shape. We learned about all of our shapes in the past couple of weeks, as well as lines. And so you're going to see that we're going to use shapes and lines in this picture. So the first shape we're focusing on is the oval shape. So what I want you to do is go ahead and hold your pencil correctly, and you're going to sketch an oval right in the center of your paper. If you're not able to close the oval down here, that's okay. So you should have an oval right here in the center. After you draw your oval in the center of your paper, you're going to draw half of an oval on the left-hand side of your oval. And if you notice, what kind of line do we use here? We use the curvy line, right? We use a curvy line. What you did on this side of the oval, you're going to do on this side of the oval. And so you're going to draw half of an oval here, okay? And so you have one big oval in the center of your paper, and then half of an oval on this side and half of an oval on this side. Once you're finished with those two half ovals, you're going to draw another half oval here on the side. Okay? Then you'll draw another one on the other side. All right. And if you notice my lines aren't perfect, that's why I'm sketching. Okay? Once you're finished with these two half ovals, guess what we're going to do next? One more half of an oval, and this one's going to be a little bit thicker than the others. So it'll go around here. And if you notice, we're continuing to use those curvy lines to make our oval. What you did on this side, you're going to do on this side. All right. It's going to be a little bit thicker. Okay. All right. So if you notice, this looks like what? The front of our pumpkin, right? Next, I want you to draw, you're going to draw half of an oval again right here on top of that pumpkin. Do you see that? Just half of an oval. And then you're going to draw half of an oval on this side. Okay, so if you notice, this side looks almost identical to this side. They're mirroring each other, right? Once you're finished with those two, you're going to draw one more half oval. This one's going to be a little bit smaller on this side, and then one on this side, okay? All right, now we've got our pumpkin, and what you're going to do next is you are going to draw the stem. The stem is going to look like a rectangle with curvy lines. And so you're going to start right here, and all I want you to do is draw a curvy line up, and then you're going to draw a curvy line up here, and then here you can close it. So it looks like a rectangle with curvy lines. Once you're finished with the stem, you're going to draw your leaf. Your leaf is going to look like a triangle with curvy lines. So we're going to draw a curvy line here and a curvy line here. Okay? And you could draw a curvy line there right in the middle. If you notice, this is our only leaf in the art piece, but I want you to get creative. If you would like to add more leaves or different looking leaves, go ahead and do that. You can do that on yours, okay? And then after you finish your pumpkin, we are going to draw our face. And so if you remember in the story, we read about the farmer carving the pumpkin and making it look happy. And we remembered that God is like the farmer who plants these seeds, these pumpkin seeds, and when the chosen pumpkin is ready to be picked, the farmer cleans out the inside of the pumpkin, remember? And then what happens? When he's all finished, he carves a new face. And so I want you to go ahead and use shapes to draw your face right in the center of that big oval. All right, so here, if you notice in this picture, what shapes do I have? I have the two triangles here for the eyes, and then I have a square here for the nose. You could go ahead and choose whichever kind of shapes you'd like to use to draw the face. You could, for example, draw a triangle for the face instead of the square. And then if you notice for the smile, I have curvy lines going up, two curvy lines going upward, facing upward, and they're connecting, right? So that's what we're going to do for our face. Go ahead and get creative with yours though. It's not going to look exactly like mine. So this is just an example. Here I have one triangle, and then I have another triangle. All right, and you're just sketching it out. And then I'll go ahead and draw another triangle for his nose. And then for his smile, I'm going to draw a curvy line going up, and then another curvy line up, up. Okay, so now what do you see? A new face, right? And now we're going to work on the cat or the animal that you would like to draw. And so if you notice, what kind of shape do you see in the cat's face? You see a circle, right? And so what I want you to do is go ahead and draw a circle right here. The circle is not going to close. You're just going to have like half of a circle because he's peeking out from behind the pumpkin, right? And then you're going to draw his or her ears. What shape do you see in the cat's ears? You see triangles, right? How many triangles do you see in the ears? You see one big triangle and one tiny triangle. You see one big triangle and one tiny triangle. And so what you're going to do is go ahead and sketch out one big triangle for the cat's ears and another big triangle for the cat's ears. And then you're going to draw another tiny triangle in the center of the big triangle, and then another triangle in the center of the big triangle. And those are the cat's ears. Next, you're going to draw the cat's eyes. What shape do you see in the cat's eyes? You see two ovals, right? So you're going to go ahead and draw 2 ovals for the cat's eyes. What do you see in the center of the cat's eyes? You see another oval, but it's facing upward, right? So it's vertical. So you're going to go ahead and draw one oval in the center of the first eye, and then another oval facing upward. And then you're going to draw, if you notice, another oval, a tiny oval for his little pupils. So you're going to draw a tiny oval here and a tiny oval here for the cat's eyes. Next, what shape do you see in the cat's in the cat's nose? You see an upside down triangle, don't you? If we turn the cat upside down, you see a triangle. So we're going to draw a triangle upside down for the cat's nose. Here, right there. And then for the cat's smile, if you notice, we're going to draw 2 curvy lines going outwards. So they almost look like the letter U, right? One letter U here and one letter U there. So we'll go ahead and draw curvy lines here. And then we can draw his little tongue sticking out, and that is an oval shape right there. All right? And next, we are going to draw the cat's eyebrows. If you could see, you see that the cat's eyebrows are simply curvy lines, right? So we're going to draw 2 curvy lines up here, okay? And then we're going to draw 5 little dots. Remember we learned about stippling and Dippin' Dots in our class? We're going to go ahead and draw 5 little Dippin' Dots on one side of the cat's mouth, and then you're going to draw another 5 dots on the other side of the cat's mouth. And then for the cat's whiskers, all I want you to do is hold your pencil correctly. You're going to go ahead and from each of the dots, you're going to sketch a curvy line outward. You're gonna go, okay? And then you'll do the same on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we see the cat's whiskers. And then all we're going to add to the cat is we're going to add the cat's arm. And if you'd like, we'll add a little fur here. So you're going to, for the arm, you're going to draw a curvy line that is drawn over the pumpkin. So we'll go ahead and do that. 1 curvy line over the pumpkin. Okay? And then you're going to draw for his little paw. What do you see? A circle, right? So you're going to draw a little circle here. So it almost looks like he's behind, the cat is behind the pumpkin, and the cat has his arm around the pumpkin, his little paw around the pumpkin. Okay? All right. Now we are ready to color and or paint. If you are coloring, I still want you to do your best coloring with colored pencils. The techniques for painting are going to be similar for color pencils. So if you are using color pencils, I still want you to take your time coloring the background. I want to see a pattern in your background. So I don't want to see any scribbling in your background. So I'm going to show you the example with watercolor paint. If you do have watercolor paint at home, you can use watercolor paint. And what you're going to need is your watercolor paint and then 2 paintbrushes. You're going to need your thick paintbrush and a detailed paintbrush. Okay, so because we're using watercolor, you're going to dip your paintbrush in water and then dip it in the color that you want to use for your background. So you could choose any color for your background that is different from the color of your pumpkin and the color of your cat. So in this painting, I'm going to go ahead and choose the color blue. So I'm going to dip that water in the blue paint, dab it, and then I'm going to go ahead and start to paint. So what I want you to do is go ahead and actually dip your paintbrush in the water so you get a little bit more water, and you can add the water here to the area that you want to paint. Add the water, add the water, add the water, okay? And then we're going to dip our paintbrush in the blue paint, and you're going to go ahead and start adding the paint. Okay? I don't want you to rub your paintbrush onto the paper, because then your paintbrush is going to go into the paper and it'll rip the paper, and we don't want that, okay? So once you're finished with that area, you're going to go ahead and add more water. Add more water. Okay, and then dip your paintbrush in your color and go ahead and add that to your background. If you notice, again, I'm not rubbing my paintbrush. I am painting very lightly. I'm like dabbing my paintbrush onto the paper, okay? Because we're using watercolor paint, and we don't need to rub against the paper with watercolor paint, okay? So I'm adding more water. Remember, we add a little bit of water onto our paper before we add the color again. So I've got my water. Now I'm going to dip it in the paint, and we're going to add a little bit more color. Dabbing. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to add more water. And a little bit more paint. Okay. And then more water. More water. And a little bit more paint. A little bit more paint. So remember, no rubbing. If you start to see that your paper has a little like it's coming off, then that means you're rubbing too much, and you want to move your paintbrush to another area, okay? All right, now let's go on to the next area that doesn't have paint. Add more water. So with watercolor, we want to be very patient, because what we all tend to do is we want to finish it really quickly, and so we go, and we don't want to do that. We want to take our time. Take your time painting small areas of your paper, okay? Just take your time. Take your time painting. Okay, now we'll move on to the next empty area. I'm sure yours is coming out really nicely. Just take your time, take your time. And now let's move on to the next area. So when you come to this area here around the leaf and the stem, just go ahead and go around them, okay? So if you notice, got the water around them here. All right, water around the leaf here. Okay. And then water around the stem. Okay. Water, water, water. Okay, now we can add our colors safely. So what happens when we put the water on beforehand is it helps the paint know where to go. So because we only added water around the stem and the leaf, the paint is going to stay on the water. The paint will stick with where the water is. Okay? Next, we're going to move on over here. We're going to go around the cat's ears. Go around the cat's ears. Go around and around. Okay. Dip it in paint. We'll go around, and now we'll move on to this area. You're still using your thick paintbrush. Okay, we've got water there, and now we're ready to paint. All right, so you're going to finish this part up. Go ahead and add some water to your next empty space. Water, water, water. And now, color. Do you see how the watercolor paint, it will not go onto your paper nicely unless it has the water. You need the water for watercolor paint. You cannot paint without water when you're using watercolor paint, okay? You don't want to use too much water, but you need enough water for it to move onto your paper. If you don't have the water, it won't move, okay? All right, now we can go ahead and move on to the bottom area. This area will be a little bit simpler because we have a big empty space here. So we'll add a little bit more water. Okay. Okay, and now let's move on to the last area. We're going to add water here. And the reason that we work on our background first is because it's the largest area in your painting. And so you want to work on the background rather than your pumpkin first. The pumpkin, even though it's big and it's the center of your painting, it's still smaller than the background. And also you want to make sure that you've chosen a background color that is different than the color of your pumpkin. If we were to paint the background orange and our pumpkin orange, then would we be able to see our pumpkin? No, right? So you've got to choose colors in the background that look different from the main part of your picture. So because in this example, we're choosing a different color, blue, I'm going to paint my pumpkin orange. The pumpkin, we'll be able to see the pumpkin, okay? All right, okay, we're just about ready to move on to our next part. See how there's all these different parts of one big painting? There's a lot of different parts, right? Okay, we're all finished with the background. You can go ahead and rinse out your paintbrush. And next we are going to work on our pumpkin. I'm going to choose to color my pumpkin orange. If you want to if you would like to color your pumpkin another color, you can go ahead and do that. That's fine as long as it's different from the background, okay? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to begin to paint orange. What you want to do is make sure, if you can work on your pumpkin after your background dries. Do you see what happens when we don't? So you can go ahead and wait for your pumpkin to dry. All right, so once your background dries, you can go ahead and move on to the rest of your pumpkin. Make sure you rinse out your paintbrush before you move on to the next color. And once you rinse out your paintbrush, you're going to go ahead and move on to the rest of your pumpkin. So with watercolor, you want to make sure that your brush strokes are neat. And so just like we drew the pumpkin, we want to paint the pumpkin going from the top to the bottom, and we're going to paint like lines. So I'm going to go here. I'm not going to paint like this. I actually want to follow the lines that the pumpkin already has, right? Even if you were to have a real pumpkin in front of you, you would see lines going down, right? And so we want to paint that way. You always want to paint in the direction that creation grows, or in the direction that you see the creation designed. So pumpkins, you never see lines like this on pumpkins. You always see them going from the top to the bottom. Okay, and then you're going to paint the other side. Lines going down, 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 down. And then the next part, down, 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 down. And the next part, down. I'm going around the little cat's arm. Down, down. Around his little arm. And then here, here, and around here, and here. And now we're ready for the middle. You're going to paint downward, downward, downward. Downward. We're going to paint around the triangles, remember? And then paint down, down, around. So we used a lot of lines and shapes in our drawing and our painting, okay? Because even when we're painting, our brush strokes are following these lines. Okay, we'll go around and around. All right. Now let's work on the stem. So if you have brown, you can go ahead and rinse out your paintbrush and dip your paintbrush in the brown, and you're going to paint going from the top to the bottom. And if it's too light, go ahead and add a little bit more paint. Okay. All right, and now let's work on our leaf. What color do you think the leaf is going to be? Green, right? So go ahead and dip your paintbrush. Actually, if your paintbrush is pretty big, you're going to go ahead and switch your paintbrush for this part. Why are we switching our paintbrushes? Because why are we switching our paintbrushes? Because this part is tiny. This part of the leaf is small. And so you can use a detailed paintbrush. We're going to paint from the top to the bottom. Top to the bottom, top to the bottom. Okay. And then you can rinse it out. And we're going to continue to use this tiny paintbrush for your cat. So I'm going to choose the color black for my cat. And so when I'm painting the cat, I'm going to make sure that I almost outline where I'm going to paint the cat. Okay, and then you can go ahead and start to paint the cat's face. I'm not scribbling, I'm still actually painting in lines, if you notice. I'm still painting straight across and around. I'm going around the tongue and around the nose. And we'll add a little bit more paint. So we're going around and around. Around. Around the eyes. So on this part, we'll be tempted to go right over the eye. Just go around the eye. Okay. And we're not perfect, so if you happen to get paint on the eye, don't worry about it. We'll work it out. Okay. And then you can go ahead and finish up with the arm. And the little paw. Okay. And now let's get his ears. We're going around that tiny triangle. The other side, go around that tiny triangle. Do you see how I kind of let go of my hand? We don't want to do that. So continue to have control over your paintbrush. Hold it correctly. All right. Okay, now we can go ahead and dip your paintbrush in water and then dip it in a pink if you have pink. If you don't have pink, you can go ahead and use red. And I'm going to paint these tiny triangles like a pink. And then the little nose pink and the tongue. And for the last part, I'm going to color the cat's eyes. I'm going to color them brown. You can color his eyes another color if you'd like. Okay. And now for the last part, if you want to add details to your painting, let's say you want to make your cat a little darker, you can go ahead and do that. For the last part, go ahead and get as creative as you'd like. If you want to add little lines for his paws, you can do that. Maybe you want to add a darker shade around him. Okay. And now for this part, what color do you think we're going to paint the inside of the face? Yellow, right? Because the story talked about shining. You are shining for who? You're shining for Jesus. You're shining his light for all the world to see. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paint my triangles yellow. And I'm also going to paint his mouth yellow. All right. And then, like I said, if you want to outline your pumpkin lines a little bit darker, you can go ahead and do that. At this point, you can add whatever details you would like to make it your own. Okay? See how I just added that so that you could see the lines on the pumpkin. Maybe I'll add a few more here. Okay. And then a few more on the other side. All right, now you have a pumpkin with a happy face, and I just want to encourage you to add any more details that would make it your own. And then I'd like for you to fill out the from the artist heart form, because that's where I get to hear your thoughts and your heart behind your art piece. Even though we all will have a pumpkin and maybe an animal and a background in our art piece, each of yours is going to look a little bit different. And so I want to hear what is special, about yours. I want to also hear about what you learned and what your thoughts are on the story. And so I hope you had fun, and I can't wait to see how yours came out. All right? Have an awesome, blessed day. See you later.